It's time to make the block that's going to be in the tail vise here. And instead of making it out of one piece of wood, I'm going to use the cutoffs of black walnut from the other portions of this workbench. Rather than using one block of wood that might warp, I'm going to layer these. So I'm going to take this wood and go ahead and cut them down to size and glue them together, and hopefully I will have one block which will be able to slide nice and smoothly in the groove. I went ahead and cut a board down to 1/2 inch thickness and made these little cutouts because inside here, since I used a router to make the groove, of course I've got a curved edge right here. Well, that same curve happens right here as well. So in order for this board to go all the way in, those cutouts have to be there. So now I'm just going to slide it in. You can see it goes all the way right up flush. So it can move around nice, but there's really no play, very little play in that at all. So that should hold in the block nicely once I glue this all together. And of course, I made one for the other side as well. I use an ordinary glue stick to attach some very, very narrow shims to both sides of the board. So when I go ahead and put this in, it's going to keep the board aligned in the slot. So it's going to be nice and tight. There it is. Now all I'm going to do is slide it forward. And now I know that this is exactly centered in my groove. So my next step is to make a board that's going to be the thickness of this little protrusion right here. I put tape on all sides so when I do a glue up, hopefully the glue won't stick to the bench itself. And the intention is to glue this to that board. So here we go. So I don't really want much spill out on this. I'm going to go ahead and do it both directions. Now with that in place, I'm going to put a block of wood right here, and I have one just like it underneath. So I'm going to put nice even pressure on this. And then I'll just let this dry. The glue is not completely dried, but it's dry enough for me to get to the next step, because I'm going to be reclamping it in just a moment. Okay. So now this board is going to go right here, and I put some tape on both sides of it, several layers of tape, so that it's pretty much right in the center of this groove. So I just want to go ahead and glue that down, and then I will reclamp. Now because I have tape everywhere, I should be pretty good to go as far as not gluing it to anything. Okay, once again, all I got to do is wait. This has been drying for several hours now, so I'm hoping with the clamps on, I should be able to pull this whole assembly over to the side if the glue hasn't stuck to it. So let's see how this goes. Nice. So now I should be able to undo all these clamps. And we'll see what this thing looks like. Okay. So this should just slide right there. And I can pop it right out. Cool. So I'm going to take the tape off. And that'll give more room on either side for it to run freely. And I'm going to take those little wedges off as well, those spacers that kept everything centered. Because now the top should keep everything nice and centered, because it's pretty much the exact width of the slot. Okay, good. Well, that glue held tighter than I thought it would. There we go. Nice. Wonderful. Okay, so you can kind of see what this assembly looks like right now. Of course, I'm going to clean this all up. Oh, I should take the tape off of this too. Okay, I'll take some of that off later. Just show you how that works. So you can see the cutouts here, which allow it to fit in, and then in that groove. Doesn't wobble much at all, and I'm just going to be drilling 3 holes in here to accept this as my little stopping point. And of course I'm going to add in my wedges right here so that I can adjust this and force it up against. So I have one more thing to do, and that is going to be to add this block right there. Now I've added tape to the lower level, and I've put tape on either side of this block, and I'm going to be putting this block right on top and gluing that into the slot. It's a tight fit, which is what I want, so that it will be centered, because once I take that tape off, then it will slide back and forth nicely. I think I need more glue. So I'm just wiping up some excess glue here so that it doesn't stick. Making sure that it can still slide. I'm going to try to move it with the clamps on first. Hopefully it's not too stuck. Good. So that means I can take off the clamps. And I have a finished block here. So with this tape off, it should be able to slide in that groove a lot nicer than what it just did. Perfect. If I wanted to put a board here, I could hold that nice and tight. But of course I have to make sure that it's a nice flat edge. I need to do the same thing on this side as well, so when the wedges are going up against this, they'll be nice and flush. I'm using a flat board to stabilize this piece of wood. Without it, it kind of rocks back and forth. So this is the same thickness which allows me to have a nice steady surface to work from. I've turned the block upside down and I've changed the Forstner bit out with a brad point bit, which is smaller than the 3/4 size I was just using. I'm going through the bottom of the board simply to allow me access if I need to. I can put a screwdriver or something straight up through that hole and push out the dog if it should happen to get stuck. It will also allow some dust to go all the way through. But if it gets really dusty inside the hole, all I have to do is take out the block, shake it out, and put it back in. So here is the completed block with all 3 holes, and it just fits right into the slot beautifully and can slide back and forth. Next, I need to make the wedges. Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe.